Tarot is a game mode that is very team oriented. Your team needs to constantly be active by stunning, interrupting, healing, or assisting teammates. And compared to the default game modes of quick match and ranked match, where you can play all characters, in Tarot mode you can't really play all characters, or at least most of them are not usable or wouldn't make any sense to play. One disclaimer for this video is that this tier list is my personal opinion from what I have seen in games both playing as Hunter and as Survivor, all the strategies that I have implemented with people that I've played with and with random players, and also all the strategies I've seen other teams play, especially when I play Hunter and I see their strategies being implemented. So let's begin with the tier list. First of all, let me tell you what I mean by each tier. S tier characters are those who should definitely be in a team composition and are almost guaranteed whenever you're playing in Tarot mode. So at least you'll see one of these characters being played. A tier characters are characters that are very powerful but do have a couple of drawbacks that make them a little bit less powerful than S tiers. B tier characters are those who are quite powerful but they really have some serious drawbacks or really don't make sense in all team compositions. C tier characters are very niche. You can play them if you're very good at them, but they really don't work in many strategies and only work if you play certain characters with them. And D tiers are really just unusable. You could play them, but there'll be no reason to and you probably would lose. I have separated this tier list into two parts. We have the Kings tier list and we also have the Squires tier list. There are some key differences between them, but you will see that some characters are very similar in their placement. I will compare each character's position to where they are in Kings and in Squires as I go along in the video. Most of the decoders are actually unusable in Tarot mode because they have no self-defense abilities. Characters like Mechanic and Mind's Eye have a slow vaulting ability, meaning that they are very weak when trying to vault windows or when they're trying to vault pallets. This makes them almost useless if you want to play them as a king. They also have no way of assisting a king if they're a squire, so for this reason they are all in D tier except for one. Prisoner and Explorer, although Prisoner does have the electric ability, doesn't have any type of protection apart from that, and the electric stun is very short, and Explorer has no type of self-defense, and his ability to hide is not very useful since the Hunter can see you at all points. As for Female Dancer, although her abilities do seem good on paper for this game mode, she has some serious drawbacks to her. First of all, her music boxes do work in a certain area, but after that she can't do anything else to help the team. And also, her music boxes also affect your knight, so your knight can also get slowed by the effects that you were trying to use on the enemy knight. So this can make it so that your knight can suffer as well, and that's another good thing. As for C tiers, we have Lawyer. He's the only decoder that is not in D tier. His ability with the map helps him to kite a little bit since he can see through walls, and his ability to protect himself and be unaffected by terror shocks is also very useful. The problem is he hasn't really got anything else that helps him do this as a king, and as a squire none of these abilities help at all because once the knight has found their target, the knight will know where the king is at all points for almost the whole match. First Officer, on the other hand, does have some very useful abilities for kiting, and the fact that he can get more pocket watches really does help his survivability overall. But apart from that, he hasn't really got any active abilities that really do help him after he's used his pocket watches, so I would say that he isn't a very strong king. As for his position as a squire, his pocket watches are really useless since the only thing he could do is body block. He could give his pocket watches to the king, but then why would you use that if you could just buy them anyway? And after that, he can't really do anything else. Postman has a variety of abilities at his fingertips, and this can make him a very useful king and also a very useful squire. His ability to use the dog to slow down the hunter and also give buffs to a king make him a very strong squire, giving vaulting speed boosts and also just speed boosts in general. These abilities are quite lackluster though once he is actually a king himself. It's possible to play him using the dog slow to slow down the hunter, but most of the time the hunter will avoid this, putting him to a B tier as a squire and a C tier as a king. Gravekeeper has 2 shovels and Magician also has 2 wands. Both of these abilities can really help extend the kite and also defend that character from being hit. But after this, these characters are almost useless. They have no other abilities for them to use. Magician, for example, now has a slower rescue time, so he's really a bad idea for a king because your team does need to rescue you. And Gravekeeper, he could be used as a squire to rescue, but there's nothing else he can really do. And the shovels are useless if he's a squire. This puts them into D tier as squires, and this puts them into C tier as kings. Acrobat does have some abilities that can help defend himself, all of the different bombs with the slowdowns, the cancel abilities. All these abilities can be very useful if you're playing the king. The problem with these abilities is that they don't directly affect or slow or stop the hunter in any way. They can be relatively useful, but they don't help you in the long run. This makes him a solid king, but he's an even better squire because he can use his abilities to really extend another character's kiting. By cancelling abilities or slowing down the hunter when the king himself has maybe a cooldown on one of his abilities or hasn't got an item, can really extend the chase much longer, warranting him a higher position as a squire. Embalmer, I haven't seen any good implementations of Embalmer in Tarot. I've yet to see anybody really play Embalmer in Tarot, so I don't really know what position to put him in. And because of this lack of good implementation that I've seen, I'm going to have to put him into C tier. I cannot really see his abilities being very useful in this game mode. Players who master Thief can usually master the flashlight and use this to an annoying extent if you're playing the hunter or the knight. But this ability is stronger when you are playing a squire and not a king, since the flashlight does have its drawbacks when you're using it. So by using it as a squire, you can use this flashlight effectively since you are not the target. This puts him into a solid C tier. Gardener and Lucky Guy are what I would call glass cannon characters. Gardener can be used in some very fringe strategies by delaying the hunter from chairing them, by breaking the chairs, or using the bubble if you're the king to take more hits. Lucky Guy is Lucky Guy. He really does depend on finding things in chests. Since there are more players in this game mode, there are less chests for him to access. Also, if he's playing as a king, he really doesn't have any time to use any of these chests or to open them. So if you were to play these characters, you would need to play a very calculated strategy. This is why they're in C tier. Cowboy's lassos can really help him to move around the map very quickly, but his lasso does end very quickly. He is more useful as a squire since he can use his lasso to grab the king whenever they're about to get hit, maybe even rescue from balloons, or rescue from the chair at a distance without having to go near the hunter who might be camping. But as a king, he doesn't have much survivability after his lasso has gone. This makes him a C tier king, but makes him a B tier squire. Also, the fact that you carry the king around and body block for them also can be useful and has been a pain for me in the past. Moving on to the B tiers, we have Entomologist. Entomologist is one of my favorite characters to play as a king, but she is a little bit of a strange character to play as a king. Her bees can be very useful if you need to get to a pallet and you need to slow the hunter down so you don't get hit before you get to that pallet or window. Also, if you're in a tight corridor, you can also use the bees to push yourself at a faster speed so that the hunter has to catch up to you. The honey on the windows can also be very useful if you're trying to loop areas and avoid getting hit, or avoid those close calls whenever you're vaulting that window. But in general, there are a lot of hunters that counter her abilities, such as Thesis Tentacles, and none of her abilities actively stop the hunter, so this means that she hasn't really got much overall survivability. Barmaid has some great abilities for Tarot, being able to heal herself, having the speed boost ability. These are very crucial for this game mode, but they come with one serious drawback. Once she uses these abilities, she is vulnerable. She can only really use these abilities when she is at a really far distance away from the enemy knight, and this doesn't happen very often in Tarot. If you are a good barmaid player, then of course you'll probably find time to use it. You always have to be wary of blink or other type of abilities that could just hit you once you're trying to heal yourself, and could worsen the situation for you in general. I would call her a sort of glass cannon character with a high risk, high reward type of playstyle. Forward is a decent king due to his ability to vault windows quicker, and also that he has a football, but one of the main drawbacks for playing forward that his football has a decreased usage time in Tarot mode. He can get an extra football, that is true, but once his football is over, he's not very useful as a king, but he can be more useful as a squire, warranting him a B tier for both king and for squire. Moving on to our A tiers. Here we have Batter. His abilities are very useful because they can be reused over and over again. They can push the hunter, they can stun the hunter, and he can use this over and over again. When you're playing as a squire, this can be very crucial because you can interrupt abilities whenever a knight is trying to use an ability to maybe move or teleport or hit someone from a distance. You can interrupt them by hitting them with the ball. This is also useful when you're trying to rescue and you haven't got enough health to rescue. You can push them away from the chair. He also has the ability to vault faster that can also give him more kiting abilities. He's stronger as a squire than he is as a king because of these abilities. If you're playing as a king, it can be very counterable by the knight. They can dodge and weave. They could even break the balls, meaning that you now have no abilities. Mercenary makes for a great king, but makes for a terrible squire. His survivability as a king means that he can take multiple hits and continue kiting for longer. That is exactly what you need in Tarot, more time. But as a squire, he has no abilities that can help anyone except for himself. He could body block. Yes, maybe that's all he can do. So that's why he warrants a D tier as a squire, but an A tier as a king. Wildling is in the same boat as Mercenary, but a little bit different. Wildling can take a lot of hits as well, making him a great king. And as a squire, compared to Mercenary, he has a lot of abilities that can interrupt a hunter and even rescue from a balloon. Both Wildling and Mercenary's ability to dash can also help in the kiting when you're playing the king. Moving on to Prospector and Prospector's magnets. Now, you would think that Prospector is a very good character to play because of his ability to stun, to push the enemy away, but there is one big problem. In normal quick matches and rank matches, it's usually just you and the hunter that are kiting. But in Tarot, there are multiple people in the surrounding area. You and your teammates, or you and the enemy team. Meaning that not only the enemy knight can pick up the magnet, but one of your teammates instead, accidentally. I've seen this way too often when instead of me picking up the magnet when I'm playing the hunter and trying to kill the king, one of his teammates pick it up and they get pushed away, and it didn't make any difference to me and I still got them down. But overall, his abilities are very useful in Tarot, so this really depends on your luck. Perfumer also makes for a really good king because of her ability to take multiple hits. Also, the fact that she can get more perfumes really extends this ability even more. One of her problems though as a squire is that her abilities don't really help apart from giving her perfumes to the king, so after that she has no other useful abilities that can assist the team. She even has a slower healing time that can make it worse when you're trying to assist your teammates in any way and trying to heal yourself up when you're on the ground. The most powerful kings, the S tiers. Now let's start with them. Seer's Owls are what make him a really powerful survivor to use in Tarot mode. Since he is constantly near the hunter, near the enemy knight, he's getting owls really often and really quickly. Being able to block multiple hits makes him so powerful that he deserves the S tier. Enchantress's ability to stun constantly and recharge and stun again and then stun again and stun again makes for a really good king, but makes for an even better squire. The enemy knight needs to be constantly aware of getting a triple stun when they pick up the king, maybe a small stun whenever they turn around a corner, or they're about to use one of their abilities. This makes Enchantress a necessity in a team. And last of all, we have Doctor. Doctor's abilities are surprisingly useful in Tarot mode. Being able to heal herself at all times as a king, this can be very good because you can take multiple hits, but as a squire she's even better because she can constantly take more body blocks and also be ready to rescue at any moment. Being able to heal up the king or being able to heal up teammates faster also helps a lot, giving her the well-deserved S tier place. Of course, this tier list is my opinion and everybody has different opinions. If you have a different opinion or there is something that you think that is wrong, completely wrong with this tier list, please tell me down below in the comments. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe if you'd like to learn some more information, some tips, some tricks, and maybe some secrets about Identity 5. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.